Hey there, welcome back to my kitchen. If you are new around here, my name is Mel, and I love to share cooking videos of what I make for my husband and I on this channel. At the beginning of the year, we decided we were going to try to eat out a little bit less, but lately I have been craving some of my favorite meals, so this week we're making some of those meals at home. I hope you enjoy these recipes today and find them easy and delicious, but let's go ahead and get started. First up today, we are going to make some Taco Bell Crunchwraps. I know you've probably seen this one before, but I do really like these and they are very easy to make at home. To begin, I'm going to go ahead and chop up half of a yellow onion. I'm also chopping up one Roma tomato and just a little bit of lettuce. Now over into a skillet, I'm going to add my 1 pound of ground beef with that onion that we just chopped up. I'm going to let these cook in here together until they are cooked all the way through. Once cooked, I will just drain out the grease and then add in a little bit of water and taco seasoning. If you have the packets, just add 1 packet of taco seasoning, but I have the big container, so I like to add between 2 and 3 tablespoons. Now to actually build this crunch wrap, I'm taking 1 burrito-sized tortilla, adding a spoonful of my taco meat to the bottom. Next, I have 1 can of this Rico's nacho cheese. That is my favorite store-bought nacho cheese. I'm just going to drizzle a little bit of that over top of the taco meat. On top of the cheese, I'm adding 1 tostada. Next, you'll add some sour cream, add as much as you want to. I just try to spread it out a little bit there. And then I'm adding a little bit of lettuce and tomato. Next, add on some shredded Mexican style cheese. And then I like to take one of my extra tortillas, rip it into smaller pieces, and just use that to help close up the gap. So I add that to the center and then I slowly start folding the tortilla up all around the edges. Then very carefully I will just transfer that over to a skillet with a little bit of avocado oil in the bottom. I like to do the bottom side first, that way it'll stay closed, and you just leave it down there for a minute or two on a low to medium heat, that way it gets this beautiful golden color. Here's what my finished plate looked like. My husband always has Diablo sauce in our cabinet. He likes to hoard it. It's his favorite Taco Bell sauce. So we both eat it with this Diablo sauce, and this sauce really makes it taste like Taco Bell. Next up, we are going to make some Arbys, and if I'm being honest, my favorite thing to get from Arbys is actually the buffalo chicken sandwich, but we decided just to make this since it's so simple. I am of course going to make some Arbys curly fries because it wouldn't be Arbys without those curly fries. Next, I'm adding in some water to this little pan, and I'm going to add in this au jus gravy, but I'm only using half of the packet. And that is because I only had a ½ pound of meat, so if you have a full pound of roast beef, then you will want to use the entire packet. So I just followed the directions on the back, split it in half, and that is how much water I added. I'm not sure off the top of my head how much water that was at this point, but whatever the back of the au jus gravy packet says, I just halved that and followed the directions from there. Once my au jus was nice and hot, I went ahead and added in my roast beef. Like I said, I had about a ½ pound here. And I just made sure that it was all soaking in there, and I just let that heat up on my stove for a couple of minutes until the roast beef was nice and hot. Somebody actually recommended me doing this the last time I made homemade Arbys, which I think that was almost about a year and a half ago at this point. They said I should try this, and I honestly think this is such a great idea. The au jus adds such great flavor to your roast beef, but also keeps the roast beef from drying out. If you were to add this into a skillet or into the oven, it would dry out a little bit, and this keeps it nice and juicy. Now I am just using some buns. I prefer to use onion buns, but I did not have those on this night, so we just used some regular hamburger buns. I added a little bit of cheese onto my bun, which I'm not gonna lie, I was gonna make a homemade cheese, but ended up having leftover cheese from my Crunchwraps, so we just used that on there. We do not like the Arbys sauce, so I did not add that onto my sandwich, but this is what my plate looked like with the sandwich and the Arbys fries. This was so good. That meat is way better if you cook it in that au jus gravy, so whoever told me that, if you're still around, thank you for that tip. It is really, really good. And last but not least today, we're making some homemade canes. If you've never been to Raising Cane's, it is so good, it's so simple, and it used to be me and my husband's go-to date spot when we were teenagers. So to begin, we're going to go ahead and make a homemade version of the cane sauce. Into this bowl, I'm adding in a half cup of ketchup, 1 cup of mayonnaise, half a teaspoon of white vinegar, half a teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, a half teaspoon of Cajun seasoning, about 3/4 of a teaspoon of black pepper, and half a teaspoon of onion powder. Get that all mixed together and let that sit on your counter or in your fridge until you're done cooking the rest of the meal. Before we get too far into this recipe, I do want to mention this is not an exact copycat of their chicken. I am making homemade chicken tenders. They won't taste exactly like Cane's because I'm not frying them, and honestly, with this sauce, this still hit the spot. I'm just taking 2 chicken breasts and I'm just going to slice those into little strips. You can also use chicken tenders, but I always have chicken breasts in my freezer, so I went ahead and just used these. Over to my cutting board, we're going to go ahead and get the mixtures for the chicken going. In this first container, I'm adding in about a half cup of flour and a half teaspoon of paprika. I'm just using a fork to get those mixed together. In the center, I'm adding in 1 egg. However, I think you would be better off if you actually use 2 eggs. Be sure to beat that egg, and then in the third container, I'm adding 1 cup of panko breadcrumbs, a half cup of grated Parmesan cheese. I'm adding a few shakes of salt and a few shakes of pepper, then using that fork again to go ahead and mix that together. Very simply, you are just going to take your chicken tender, dip it into the flour, make sure to coat it on all sides. Next, transfer it over into that egg, shake off any excess back into the bowl, and finally add it into that panko breadcrumb Parmesan mixture. Be sure to pat it down and make sure that breading is really sticking to your chicken. Once covered, go ahead and add it onto your baking sheet. I actually like to use this pan. It has a little grate over the top, so it helps get the chicken crispy on both sides. I lightly sprayed my chicken with a little bit of avocado oil, and then this went into the oven to bake for about 10 minutes. While that's cooking up in the oven, I am going to start these crinkle cut fries in my air fryer. I just followed the directions on the back of the bag for those. Unfortunately, I did not have the toast from Cane's, which honestly, let me just say, is my favorite part, but that's okay. This meal still was so good and hit the spot like I said earlier. This cane sauce is honestly very, very close. Me and my husband have made this recipe many times and we both love it. It just pairs so well with these fries and chicken tenders. I hope you enjoyed today's video. We definitely did, that's for sure. If you made it to the end of this video, don't forget to leave me a flower down in the comments below to let me know that you did. And I will see you guys back here on Wednesday for another video. Bye guys!